Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought provoking conversations. US Securities and Exchange Commission has asked the Indian authorities for help in its investigation of Adani Group founder Gautam Adani and his nephew over alleged securities fraud and a 265 billion bribery scheme. A court filing has shown that. Now, the regulator told a New York district court that it was making efforts to serve its complaints on the founder and his nephew, Sagar Adani, and was seeking help from India's law ministry. This is what the Reuters report has said. And they've also mentioned that neither individual is in US custody and both are in India. So, therefore, the SEC has requested assistance under the Hague Service Convention. And what exactly they've said, uh, this is what exactly the line was, that SEC has requested assistance under the Hague Service Convention. It also said in the court filing. Now, the Adani Group and the Law Ministry of India did not immediately respond to the Reuters request for the comment. And this status filing comes just a week later when Prime Minister Modi said that he did not discuss Adani case with US President Donald Trump during his visit to Washington, describing it to the reporters as an individual issue never discussed by the leaders. Now, this latest filing by the SEC. Now, does it go to show that the Indian government is not cooperating actually with the SEC as far as the investigations into Adani are concerned? Is it an on the record admission of the fact that the government is continues to protect Gautam Adani and is not cooperating with the American authorities? Joining me now this evening is Sanjay Jha, veteran political commentator, author, and columnist. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for joining. And it's always a pleasure having you on the program. And this status filing by the SEC in New York's Brooklyn court, what does it actually show? They've said that they've asked for the assistance from the law ministry under the Hague Convention. Is it an on-record admission of the fact that the government continues to evade the investigation on Adani and it's not ready to help at all, no matter what?
First and foremost, great to be on your program, Neelu. I think your viewers need to know a couple of things. Number one, this matter is going to reach its logical conclusion unless President Donald Trump, who is issuing all kinds of executive orders, decides not to execute or rather implement the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which is very much part of American regulations. It's possible. But here is the fundamental problem for Mr. Modi's government. And these are things that we need to ponder about. In November of 2024, you have the FBI, you have the SEC, which is independent, not like India's SEBI, and you have the Eastern District Court of New York, which says that Gautam Adani and his group and the people you mentioned stand indicted. What does indicted really mean? It doesn't mean that he's convicted, so he can fight his case. But the indictment basically means that there is a substantive evidence which has been submitted and the court believes that a trial needs to be held. Now, that to me is where the problem for Mr. Modi and his government, because we all know their close proximity with Gautam Adani, is going to be a real challenge for them. Ask yourself a question, Neelu, and the viewers as well. Why would any government in the world actually stonewall an investigation against one of its richest businessmen with close proximity to the powers that be, and in areas, capital intensive areas like infrastructure, which are largely government funded? Why would a government stonewall an investigation? It's bizarre that, because obviously big media will never ask these questions. You have been doing it and others as well, that between November till February of 2025, Mr. Modi's government has not even bothered to actually call Mr. Adani and confront him with these charges. And I think that is a scandal by itself. In fact, if you ask me, and I'm going to step it up a little bit, it almost shows complicity. Right? Supposing somebody is accused, and this is a cross-border, high-profile case, and let me tell you, Neelu, I have worked with a couple of American companies until Trump has come along, and we'll see what Trump does. I mean, you're talking about a madman theory in his case. But the truth is that if you lie to the US investors, because in this case it is about US investors who are denied certain information, they take it extremely seriously. They do. So far, they have. There could be some very serious consequences, which is why arrest warrants are issued, right? Now, what you're seeing today is that in a formal procedural process, you find that they have said that we have sent the summons for Mr. Adani, which means basically providing him with the legal notice, saying that, well, you have to come and make your case. Either Mr. Adani is going to say, I'm guilty or not guilty. If he says guilty, there will be consequences, whatever. If he says not guilty, there will be a proper jury trial. Can Mr. Modi save Mr. Adani, or can his government do that? We'll have to wait and see. But one thing is pretty obvious, and this is as clear as daylight. What was Mr. Modi's government doing between November till now? I mean, were they so cocky or arrogant, or believe that Donald Trump would just kind of, come and sandbag Mr. Adani? Well, let me tell you, Donald Trump is a smart American businessman. He's a transactional guy. I'm worried whether he's not going to use this as a negotiating instrument with the Indian government, which wants to protect Mr. Adani. That's hardly a secret. And actually, India as a country gets further
No, but
compromised.
you're confident, Sanjay, that Adani probably could be used as a negotiating instrument by Trump, because whatever scenarios are emerging, the meeting with Donald Trump of Prime Minister Modi, and whatever developments we have seen so far, it seems the
Right.
larger picture is that Trump doesn't consider Adani as a very important entity, and the courts are
Mhm.
doing their bit. The Brooklyn court is doing what it should be, and this is what
Mhm.
the status filing also shows.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I mean, I believe that Donald Trump is a smart, scheming man. I mean, he will have no love for anybody from India, including Mr. Modi. If you looked at the reception that Mr. Modi got, he was not even invited at the prime time, which would have given him big media publicity in India, right? You know that it was received by just a regular person, not by Donald Trump himself. And I can tell you that I think the Ministry of External Affairs has ended up embarrassing Mr. Modi by that press conference, which has to be the most disastrous press conference that I have ever seen in my life of an Indian Prime Minister. Now, Mr. Modi was asked a question on Adani. You heard his answer. It was absolutely out of sync with what he had to actually respond. He said Adani is an individual or a personal matter. Is Adani a personal matter? For God's sake, he flew with Mr. Modi in an official plane or whatever as part of the entourage, and he got very prime government contracts from foreign governments. We all know that he's got these airports given to him against an opposition made by Niti Aayog. For I don't think we even need to talk about it. Mr. Modi went for his swearing-in ceremony as a prime minister in 2014 on Adani's plane. I think let's not even go down this road. I think the worry for Mr. Modi is that now he has no choice but to defend Adani, because I'm sure Adani knows the entire inner operations of how he and the government function.
No,
And I
but
think
Sanjay, do you think that this latest filing by the SEC in the Brooklyn court, does it tighten the leash on Adani further? I mean, we do not know when the trial is going to begin and what the processes will be. But since the SEC status filing does mention about the fact that they've asked for assistance from the Law Ministry under the Hague Convention, now if the government doesn't pay heed, then obviously the next step would be that they will seek extradition of Gautam Adani, to which the government may agree, may not agree. Both scenarios are there. And looking at the way they have approached the Adani matter and the Adani investigation, it seems that the Modi government will continue to give him a cover up. So, in that case, do you think that now the courts will tighten the leash on Adani?
Well,
The, the
I can tell you, Mr. Adani has very limited elbow room. What can happen is, things that we don't know, back channels that operate to salvage Mr. Adani's reputation. Not easy anymore at all. And I'll tell you the other problem, which your viewers ought to know, that the American courts have said that approximately rupees 2,200 crores were paid to government officials. Now, if you hear the BJP, they will say they were paid in certain Congress ruled states. That's not the point. The point is that it also included Jammu and Kashmir directly under Mr. Modi's government. That's not the point. The point is they were paid to government officials. Now, ask yourself a question. If there is an allegation of the richest businessman in the world who is close to the government having paid bribes to government officials, no matter which state, isn't it the responsibility of Mr. Modi's government to investigate it? I mean, the famous trinity or the trifecta of ED, CBI, and income tax just decided to not look at it at all. I mean, kya hua bhaiya? Huh? The famous trinity went dead. They went into hiding. So clearly, there is an attempt to conceal something. I'll tell you what I think is the problem. And I'm speaking again as an outsider. If, firstly, given the fact that Gautam Adani's relationship with the government is pretty well known, and the most powerful man in the country is supposed to be one of his biggest protectors or his patrons, and Mr. Adani is the blue-eyed boy of the BJP. You should see how BJP spokespersons defend him on TV shows, as if they are his PR company or his legal consultants. Here is a question: why did Mr. Modi's government not investigate those bribery charges? Get it? Supposing they were convinced that it had to do something to do with the Andhra government of Jagan Mohan Reddy or whatever, hey, establish the case, right? After all, you're masters in political vendetta. My worry is, and this is what I suspect could be the reason why Mr. Modi's government is not investigated Adani for the last 3 months. I mean, it's a scandal, it's a shocker. I mean, I've heard of plutocracy, I've heard of the Gilded Age. This is the first time in broad light democracy that a man is accused of bribery charges by the US government. And the Indian government actually went to town in the early days saying this is a conspiracy of the Congress and George Soros to destabilize India, even blaming the United States. I mean, can you believe that? You were endangering your entire diplomatic, shall we say, credentials with the United States to save Adani. So clearly there's a can of worms here. And I think Neelu focus on this point. Who are these people who got the bribe? Okay, because tell me, who in the government, which bureaucrat will have the guts to tell Adani that you pay me bribe, otherwise I won't give you permission, or I won't give you whatever certain whatever legal documents, etc., that need an approval? Who has the guts to do that, right? So I have a strong feeling that this needs to be investigated, because this could be a very convenient operation. And we're all in a state of allegation at the moment, because this will have to go through a grand jury trial, and Mr. Adani has every right to defend himself. That at the moment, the bigger question is that if these bribes were paid, why were they paid? And finally, where did this money go? And I can tell you for a fact that I feel that this is where the BJP has got something to hide. There is no other reason why the party actually did not even investigate Mr. Adani for the last 3 months, and has so far not responded to this request to serve the judicial summons, which, as per the Hague Convention, you're obligated to do that. And third,
Absolutely.
like it or not, you have an extradition treaty with America.
No, but
And
what
in this,
happens? What happens, Sanjay, if the Indian government continues to stonewall this assistance which the US court has sought? What happens
right.
if they continue to stonewall this?
Well, let me tell you, I think it's about time that India's opposition, particularly the Congress party, recognized that it's not going to be enough to just hold one press conference. It's not going to be enough to put out these great tweets. You need to create a public awareness and make it simplistic. I'll give you an example. The reason why the Adani issue, which I believe is one of the biggest scams, probably along with electoral bonds after 1947, and yet Mr. Modi's government continues as if it doesn't care a damn, it continues in a blase fashion, is because you got to convey this corruption or this crony capitalism or what is called as the robber barons having a field day by making it simple and in a very comprehensive language for the common man. The common man is not going to understand cross-border risks. They're not going to understand, a violation of investor interest in America, right? You got to tell them, what does this mean for the common man? Because end of day, this is about India's national resources being diverted to a businessman, right? I'm talking about the entire Adani issue, not just this particular one. And talk about, that's the reason why India's inequality has worsened, because a couple of A's and a couple of very influential businessmen today do control India's wealth. It's a fact, right? So as you can see, Elon Musk in America with Donald Trump, which is an open embrace of what I would call as the oligarchs now are openly running governments. I can tell you for a fact it's no different in India. If Can you tell me a businessman who feels that the government will not go after him under any circumstances, whose politicians and leaders will defend them in parliament and on TV studios? Clearly, the influence on regulation, the influence on policy, the influence on government must be humongous. And I think everyone who's watching your program should know it, because they are paying a huge price for it.
Stay ahead with our cutting edge news app. Instantly access the latest shorts in just 1 minute and breaking news in just 50 words. Download now for a smarter, faster news experience.